started to get live. To talk about it openly, in a vulnerable way, in a way where you can relate to other people. You know, and so there's a ton of wins I bet here that people are going to share, but I also hope that throughout the entire evening you also share things that you're worried about, things that you're doubtful of. It's a crazy world we live in. We're coming out of COVID and into what people call a quote-unquote bear market. I love using that phrase. I learned it yesterday. And I think it's awesome that we can at least come together and share wins, losses, challenges, fears, doubts, and hopefully start to build a community back up here in Toronto. So if you've been to a LinkedIn local event before, thank you for coming back. And if you haven't, welcome, because this is a place that I hope you enjoy. Bobby is the event builder. The work that they do at DYPB is just incredible to bring community in Toronto together. So Bobby, the floor is yours. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, it's very good to be back. You know, I had my first in-person speaking gig in May this year. I flew out west, and gosh, like, and you know, the room had about 100 people, but I tell you, the vibe, energy, just being back. As a speaker, it's been hard because, you know, in 2020, everything just was gone, and no one's rescheduling anything, so it was really hard. And so, you know, and what's funny was, I want to thank Bill and Swish for prompting me to get these going again, because they spoke to me a week apart. Hey, Bobby, when are you going to bring these back? And Bill's like, well, Bobby, you're going to do it? Yeah, okay, we got to do this. This is the first one we ever did. And I remember Swish invited me, and initially he's like, do you want to help him organize? I'm like, no, I'm too busy. And then he said, hey, why don't you come speak on the panel? I was like, okay. And then I got there, and I was like, this is pretty good, this is fun, like lots of people. And then the second one, I was like, okay, you know what, I was helping out, and by that time I was like, you know what, let me help organize these things. And he's like, and so just really, yeah, do it, that'd be great. And so that's kind of how it happened. And we've done, and we have some really amazing, I want to thank sponsors. So Xero has brought the food, the drink, and the space. Thank you so much for Xero for that. Also done some advertising and helped us get some supplies for this event. Thank you for them. And DYPB Discovery Personal Brand is actually my company that we've been doing personal branding, helping people get clarity, focus, and purpose and direction on their brand, and helping them elevate that brand to a thought leadership brand level by helping them with meaningful relationships, LinkedIn, Twitter, social audio, mindset, confidence, public speaking, and storytelling, things like that. So those are, and then of course we have a lot of partnership. HR Gazette, that's Bill, who's been fantastic. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, great. The College Brand Club, Ray Allen, the Be Happy HR Company, Women in Business Network, they've all been partners promoting and helping us organize this event. Okay, I don't understand which way this thing is going. So it's kind of confusing. Okay. All right, that was our first one. Then we had this other one. We've been in multiple locations and we've tried different. What's been great actually, it wasn't planned. It was just like I think we've showcased 8 different places in the city to do events. And so this one was a really cool spot. And then this one I think was at CSI. We had panels and they had speakers. This one I was at that bar. Marika, do you remember that one? That bar?
Yes.
What was that? I forgot what it's called. It was a cool bar. Anyway, it was a really nice place, and we have people who speak. It's been great with the panels, and then we have the open mic sessions where people come up and actually share their story. So we're actually going to invite you later today to share your story, to share what you've been through, or maybe share a tip, or ask for help. Maybe you're looking for a job, maybe you're looking for business leads, maybe you need some help. This room is all about networking, so that's kind of why we're here. Okay, so make sure you take advantage of that. Another group photo shot at one of the events. This is the last one we did. This was, again, a new location, I forget where it was, but it was really, this is the one, February 2020. And I like to say, and I remember this because Marika was there, Marika, Godwin, they're all part of the DYPB team that have been helping us over the years. It was our best event ever. Like sold out, standing room only, we had a bunch of sponsors, I'm like, wow, this is really cool, and who knew what was going to happen 2 months later? It was crazy. And then we did a virtual one in May of that year, just completely did not go well, tanked. No one wanted to do online in May of 2020. Then we did another one in November, and it was about resilience, which is important, but still I was like, oh God. And so we stopped doing them, and so I'm so glad we're back, okay? I just want to make sure that people are clear. And this is a team that we've had, some of them are here, some are not here. One of the things that was hard, of course, in the pandemic, everyone had to leave. Everyone started doing their own things, take care of their own businesses. And so I missed the team, but some of them are here now, so it's really good to see some of them. And on that note, if people want, we all are helping because we love LinkedIn Locals and the Meetup. So if people want to help with these events, right, moving forward, we just need a team of like 5 or 6 people that can organize things and help it. So Xero has been really great with helping us organize today. But if people want to help out with this, we would love to have folks join us for that. And again, a little bit about DYPB, which I'm not going to talk about right now. So I want to get right to the next speaker. So first off, we have Liv from Xero, who's going to talk a bit about the organization and share a few words, and also a little bit of housekeeping as well. Everybody, welcome Liv.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Bobby and Switch, for opening up this space for us tonight. It's incredible to be back in person. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome to you all. My name is Liv Thompson, and I'm Enterprise Growth Manager here at Xero for Canada. We are so excited to be back in person and have you all here for this meetup tonight. So thank you for taking time out of your sunny afternoon to join us all. For those who aren't familiar with Xero, we were founded over 16 years ago in my hometown of Wellington, New Zealand, which is why I greeted you tonight in Indigenous Māori. Our founder set out on a mission to make accounting sexy. Yes, he did. Today our mission has evolved and we exist to make life better for small business owners, their advisors and communities around the world. We do that by providing an insightful, integrated and connected platform that is secure for small business. One of the things that underpins everything we do at Xero is our value #human. So when our lives were turned upside down by COVID, like many businesses, we needed to pivot. How are we going to connect, build, maintain, strengthen human connection in a 2D world? Challenging, right? And we've all been through it. Myself, my journey with Xero Canada started in August 2020. I was onboarded remotely from Wellington in New Zealand. So my first day wasn't walking the floors of this building, meeting 100 people at once, forgetting everybody's names as I walked past. It was 4 a.m. I was having virtual one-to-ones, navigating the mute button. It's harder than you think. What was the etiquette with video on, video off? And I was adjusting to my new work attire. Business on top, casual on bottom. Can't say I was mad about that bit either. Fast forward a year and I made an intrepid journey from a COVID-free New Zealand to a relatively COVID-ridden Canada. I arrived here April 2021 and my world was still rather virtual. I was still operating 2D with my colleagues and my partners. And I missed the human connection. Fast forward another year or just a bit more and here we are today. I'm standing in front of you in the Toronto office wearing pants. It does really feel like this has been a moment, 2 years in the making for me. So I'm just so ecstatic to be here, grateful to Swish and Bobby and Josh from our team who has helped out to bring us all here tonight. But navigating this hybrid world and getting back into the jazz of connecting in person is an opportunity for us all. So I'm really excited to be back. I'm excited to hear from our speakers tonight, and I'm also excited to dust the cobwebs off my own networking banter, which has got rusty over the last 2 years. So you'll hear more about that later. Just want to close out before I hand off a few housekeeping things. We are recording this evening, so if you're uncomfortable being on camera, just put yourself behind the webcam and the camera in front of me here. There are some lovely couches back there, very comfortable. If you need a washroom, just go out the door on the left, and as you follow the row of desks down, you'll see the washrooms on the right. We call them toilets in New Zealand, but apparently that's rude here. And then finally, if there's an emergency, as per usual, follow the green emergency exit signs and our team will be there to help. But again, grateful to have you all here in our office space tonight and excited to connect later on. So back to you, Bobby.
Thank you very much. And so we have a short program for tonight. We're keeping it pretty short. We're focusing on the relationship building, but that also leads to talking about, being in person, working remotely, hybrid workplaces, and so we brought a couple of really good speakers. We also did some networking activities. So I'd like to introduce the first speaker. Brian Hughes is the Vice President of First Onsite Restoration, and he's going to share a really awesome talk about celebrating new and renewed relationships. Brian, welcome.
All right, can you guys hear me okay? All right, I'm usually in shorts and flip-flops, so I'm also dressing myself today. So wow, what a joy just to be here today. How is everybody feeling? Anyone feeling a bit scratchy? A little uncomfortable? Okay, thank you for your honesty. We got some scratchiness going on. Yeah. Well, I was actually driving in from London today. I was thinking, what can I start with? What can I sort of create some space for? And I reflected back on what was my first in-person meeting since COVID had hit. And it's when I was in Denver in our global office the second week of January this year. And being a great Canadian, I did all the things at the airport was brutal, but we got to the office and the lady, my colleague who received me was asking, she said, I'll take you to your office, we've got you set up here. I'm walking down in the executive channel where I was working in. They're all glass offices and everyone's in their office. The doors are closed and they're all on the computers. And there was silence. There was no energy. I'm thinking, wow, what's going on here? Like, it was creepy to me. So I got to the office, I got working, and I started my first meeting on visually, and it's a global company, and all of a sudden some activity started, but then no one's having masks on. And I said, this is kind of weird too, right? Because I was uncomfortable with that. And so then I went up to the receptionist who received me and said, so Lord, like, what's going on here? She goes, the masks. She goes, well, it's optional. I said, optional? She goes, I'm only wearing it because my son just his classroom tested positive for COVID, so I'm just waiting for my results back. And my son goes, oh my goodness, right? So my comfort level went really out of comfort, right? And got a bit scratchy and things like that. And then the next day, we were in 2 days of meetings, 15 people, shoulder to shoulder, in a training session. Uncomfortable. Only one other person in the room was wearing a mask, besides myself. So I think I had to make a decision. Okay, what are you gonna do? I was still awkward, we had a mask on, I was still awkward, no one had masks on, so what do you do? So I said, you know what, if you're gonna get COVID, you're gonna get COVID, so take it off, right? So good news is, I never got COVID, which is a really great story. But I just offer that up because there's a lot of lessons from that, that whole comfort zone thing. That's what we're talking about here today, I think, and then we're trying to bring some insight to that. That's what I do for a living. I work for a company, it's called First Onsite Restoration, as you've heard. We're a disaster recovery company. We go into some nasty stuff, stressful stuff. We're frontline workers. It's uncomfortable. And even the past 2 years, we actually it was hard to do our work because we're in the front. People say, don't come into my home, you're not coming into my home. So it created a lot of stress on top of the work itself as these disasters were happening. But the stuff I'm going to share with you today, my commitment to you today is I want to bring some value to yourself personally, to your organizations, to the communities that you're working in. Because these 3 levers that I'm going to share today with you will change your lives and your world if you commit to it and really stick to it. First Onsite, we do an engagement survey every year. The last 5 years, including the past 2 years, to our pleasant surprise, has gone up statistically with significance with our engagement survey. And we were shocked, particularly from this last year, because it came up 2 months ago. We had some 2 tough years, just like everybody else, that discomfort. We're shifting, we're trying to figure out how do we engage our people. And these 3 things I'm going to talk about today are going to actually help you understand the levers that I was focusing on for the last 3 years, including COVID. And that's around mindset shift, sense of belonging, and building community. If you pay attention to these 3 levers alone, you will change your world. I'm going to start with a quote. You can't stop the future. You can't rewind the past. The only way to learn the secret is to press play. That's by Jay Asher, who wrote a teen novel called 13 Reasons Why. Very powerful book, but that quote says it all. We can't live in the past. We can't change the future. Let's live the now. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And what does that take? Is we have to retrain our brains. So my effort over the last 2 years, particularly, was working with our executive team to shift what is the relationship with our employees? What do we have to shift our way of thinking? The amount of people that I had to deal with that actually said, well, I need to see the whites of the eyes. I need them in their office. They had a different way of managing their people. The relationship with employees is shifting from that patriarch sort of relationship to that social contract. And that's really what we're talking about is how do we shift that? That's hard, particularly for the industry that I'm in. These are hard-working, frontline people, tradespeople. They don't talk about stuff like that. They just want to do the job and that. But they also, what we've learned, is they also are people. And we talked about that. These are people, and they have emotions. And creating that space is really critical. But it does take that mindset shift. It's getting out of our comfort zone, as I talked about. Getting over our fears. The management fear of stuff not being done because people aren't in the office anymore. Well, what's not happening? Well, nothing, but who knows that they're in the garden if they're not doing their work? Well, why do you care? Are they delivering what you want them to deliver? Yes. Then why does it matter? That is a significant shift for many people that are used to seeing people every day in front of them to actually get stuff done. And that took time and reiteration with people. It's just trying to reinforce that whole mindset shift from that. But once it happens, it really sets the stage for trying to create that sense of belonging. And this is about care. And what we do at First Onsite is we do care. And we use this acronym, CARE, on this platform, which builds resiliency. I heard resiliency referred to. Building resiliency is powerful to create that sense of belonging. And it includes shifting your mindset first. Because if you don't shift your mindset, we can't change our behavior. So therefore, to include this sense of belonging and create that sense of belonging, we have to change the way we think first. And we're going to all show up very differently because of that. So CARE stands for basically creating space. When I say creating space, that's that whole psychological safety. That's one of the most significant things that I've talked about over the last little while in 2 years is psychological safety. That's a scary word for a lot of people. But that's how we've shifted how we do our work in the field even. We've got all these things in place that are legislated and tools about safety, but no one ever talked about psychological safety or that resiliency and how we show up to the workplace. So really creating that space. And attending is the A. How do you attend to that person? How do you really listen and respond, which is the R? Respond to them, listen and respond, and then you earmark. So when you have a care mode, we call them, you actually create that space. You listen, you respond, and you earmark to follow up. And that really is that connection we're talking about. Because it's a scary time still. There's a lot of people that have a lot of fear still, and we're trying to get the comfort level there in the field, coming back to work. Do they have COVID? Or they had COVID? Their family had COVID? Like, we're dealing with that, trying to get people to come back to the office. It's hard. People don't want to come back to the office. Mindset shift. How do we change the relationship? How do we trust people more? How do we build that opportunity? If you don't have to come to the office, why come to the office? And create the belongingness and create that skill set to actually deal with people differently from when you're actually in that remote state from that perspective. So that's that whole sense of belonging, remote's okay, diverse thinking's okay. Because without those two things, we can't do this next thing. This is really about building community. When I say community, it's a social contract. Shift your mindset. It's not just, this is your job, do what I say. This is the space we're creating. It's an opportunity to build together. And it's about creating a space to actually get feedback, to learn from each other, and truly listen to the feedback. If you do that, you can actually create the new world that we're living into. It's not going back the way it is. Our management team, I know, has got there. They recognize, okay, it's a new employment contract. It's now a social contract. And we have to create that space and develop skills and that whole comfort level around how do you celebrate what we've learned from each other. And you have to learn from each other and create that space and celebrate it. So then we can actually adapt and rebuild and do what we need to do within our organizations, within our community. It even works in your family, because I've applied this to my family as well. Very powerful stuff. If you have that mindset, openness to create that space, to care for each other as people, you can build those responsibilities, rebuild responsibilities, relationships, and really try to connect with people. That's what it comes to. If you create that proper space, the community will grow, whether it's your home, your broader community, your organization. It does pay off. You can engage people in that whole process. So again, I offer that to you to think about for sure. So to summarize, focus on what we can control, our mindset. We can control that. That's the only thing we can control. Not the responses, not other people's thoughts. It's what we think, because that's how we show up. And how we show up creates the environment that we can care for each other, we can include each other, we can value each other. So powerful to really get us into this new world. Because if we don't shift how we think, we're going to show up very differently. That's not going to work for organizations or places to be in that perspective. And finally, most importantly, let's co-create our new world together. And as I opened up with that comment is, you can't stop the future, you can't rewind the past. That's the only way to learn the secret is to press play.
Thank you so much for that, Brian. If anyone has a question for Brian, maybe we can take one question. Is that okay? Okay, but we have time. We'll make time for one question. Anybody want to ask Brian a question? Because I think he had a really good chat there. Yes, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, for people going back to work, how do you overcome their fear? Great question.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah.
Great goal.
Yeah. So what was the last part? I missed the last part, sorry.
Both the COVID.
With the COVID, yeah.
Come back and make it COVID.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And then,
Yeah. It's about creating the space and asking questions and being curious, right? So what are you concerned about? What's
no,
your
I'm not
secret?
concerned. I don't have no concern. I work myself.
Good for you.
People are scared of the,
Yes.
the big word.
It's a big word.
That's a big one to overcome.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
After that.
Yeah. So how do you overcome that? Is creating space for dialogue and talk about it.
Like they're so scared they don't want to talk.
Then you can only refer them. That's that target. So you can refer them. So if you can't come in, and we're not psychologists, I'm not saying become a psychologist, I'm saying create space, listen to them, respond or refer. And say, you know what, this is going to say, I don't know what you're going through. I can't even understand what you're going through, but I'm here to listen. You listen, you refer, and then you earmark, let's check in. Hey, here's some things you can do, refer them, and then you earmark time to follow up and just do a check-in. Hey, how's it going? That's it. How you feeling? What's happening? Because we do that. I get your question. It's a really good question, and it's real. We can't ignore it, and we don't ignore it. Just care. If you can care, you'll get through anything. And don't overcomplicate it. Don't be a psychologist. Don't try to solve the problem. Just make people seen and heard. Then you can be human. Hashtag human, I think is what we're talking about. Hashtag human. Great take. I'm going to steal that. So thank you for that. Is that good? Okay.
All right, thanks, Brian. All right, good job, good job. And as I mentioned, I see you taking pictures and videos. I forgot, hashtag LinkedIn Local, hashtag LinkedIn Local TO, okay? You can also tag DYPB TO on Instagram and Twitter if you want, but again, share the photos, share the loves, tell people we're alive, and let people know what's going on. So now actually, it's before we have our next speaker, it's a networking session. I'm going to share a little story with you. So everyone may know me, I do Myers-Briggs. I am 100% extrovert, but during the pandemic, I lost my mojo, okay? And I'll tell you a little story. We went to Vancouver and Victoria where my mother-in-law and we went for Christmas because we missed it for 1 year. And we went there, and while I was in Vancouver with my best friend Maureen, we stayed with her, and we visited friends for dinner and for breakfast, and went on hikes, and over 3 days, I visited like probably 6 or 7 different pairs and groups of friends. And then we got on the ferry to Victoria, and my grandma picked us up, I got back to the house, and then I slumped on the couch and lay down. And I was like, ugh. And my wife, who's an introvert, came over. What's wrong? I was like, I don't know, I just feel really tired. And she's like, that's exactly what we introverts go through, now you get it. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Wow, I was tired, because I wasn't used to it, right? And we're not used to it, so I'm gonna shake off the networking rust today, because I love to speak, and I love to talk about networking. My first thing back in the day when I started 17 years ago as a speaker was I talked about networking. That's what I talked about. So we're gonna do a little networking exercise to get you guys in the groove again. I know you were networking before, but now we're gonna talk about networking and asking deeper questions. So we'll start with everybody standing up. There you go. And first off, we're gonna break up the besties. So don't hang on your bestie, okay? I know you guys see the besties. You need to leave your BFF and mill around, okay? So I want you to mill around and create a group of 4 people. Just go ahead, go right now, Find some new people, a group of 4. Go, there you go, yes. Okay. Awesome. All right. Now, here's your question, Okay, can you hear me? Hello. President aisle 3. So here's what I want you to do. I'm sorry. So, you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Here's the question for you. The question you're gonna ask yourself each other. I want you to share with your group. What would you tell your 14-year-old self? What advice would you give to your 14-year-old self? In 3 minutes, go.
Some very deep conversation happening here. It's looking good, right? You enjoying yourselves? All right. Keep commenting.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Clap once you hear me. Clap once you hear me. Clap once you hear me. Clap 3 times you hear me. Clap 4 times you hear me. Clap 5 times you hear me. I just do that as a camp counselor because the kids are going down. So I know. So I'm going to give you a question for the next group before you go. Okay? So you're going to leave this group. You're going to find some new groups. So now your new besties are becoming your old besties. Okay? You have to go find someone else to talk to. This time I want you to have a group of 3. Okay? And before you go, the question you're going to ask yourself, and again, no besties, okay? Yeah, you two split up. Okay. So, I know you don't want Papa Bobby coming down on you, okay? So, the question to ask yourself is, you have a box that's wrapped up in a nice little gift for you, and it's something you really, really want. Tell the people in your group what it is in your group of 3, okay? Move, find the people, go. Shoppers. Okay. So, all right, that was great, right? These are amazing people. Did you meet some amazing people today? Did you meet some amazing people today? Did you meet some amazing people today? Well, there's more. So now what you're gonna do is you're going to find a new person you haven't met before. So you have to travel half across the room. This time you're gonna just pair up, okay? And what you're gonna talk about is, I want you to talk about two things. One, I want you to tell them someone really cool tonight that you met, right? And number two, I want you to tell them about a really profound experience that changed your life. Yeah, ask you questions and talk about the networking deeper level. All right, new person, go.
Hi, how are you?
So first off, I want to say, wasn't it you? I mean, the expression on your face during this conversation, like you seem like you were having those amazing conversations in your life. Like that was amazing. So I really appreciate that. And again, deep connection. The first TEDx talk I did, the first one I did, was about how to create deep, authentic connection. And so just by saying the words that we're going to have a deep conversation makes a big difference. Asking the deep question makes a big difference. Sharing vulnerability on your own at first will invite connection. And so if you want to do that, I always invite you to try those things, even at networking events, because you never know such profound stuff's going to come from the conversation. And of course, I cut you off several times because that's a strategy I've used for years. Because the goal is by cutting you off and you're in the middle of this amazing conversation, maybe you'll pick up afterwards and find that person and finish the conversation because maybe they get a chance to share their box or their story or their profound moment. So with that, grab a seat and we're going to have our next speaker. Thank you.
We're done.
And our next speaker needs no long introduction. Go ahead. I said go long. All right. Don't worry, and by the way, there's a lot of drink, so we're going to have some later too, okay? All right. Thanks so much for sharing that networking activity. And again, keep sharing the photos, keep sharing the videos, tag everybody, and let's keep celebrating what we're doing. And if you need to like quickly get a snack, just quietly scull over there, come on back, and then we'll have our next speaker. So, if I can have everyone's attention, hello, people vacation. Hi, okay, so just want to make sure. Yeah, hi. Okay. So our next speaker is Christina Anderson. She's the Director of Digital and Strategy at KPMG. And I've been really enjoying our conversations before the event about the things she would talk about. Because I've always struggled with the tech and how do you make it more human and how do you balance that. So I'm very excited to hear her talk using tech to make work more human. Please give it up for Christine.
No lie, I didn't know about #human before I came tonight, but I was really excited about it because it fits in perfectly with what we're going to talk about. So this is a topic I've been thinking about for a while now, especially as we emerge from the pandemic and start to go into hybrid working environments and really how we're interacting with tech and how it impacts us as humans. But tonight is the first talk I'm giving on this topic, so you're all guinea pigs. Would love to hear your feedback. If you have questions, I only have 8 minutes today. Bobby was sticking to the time. So we're going to only touch on the highlights. But if you want to dive into any of the topics in a bit more detail, we can go into it over the open mic session or find me later this evening and we can chat a little bit more. All right, so let's get into it. When I saw this stat originally, I thought it was a bit bananas. That North American adults are spending on average 11 hours using technology. And then I reflected on my own behavior and I realized my number is actually probably quite a bit higher than that, right? Because if you think about all the time that you're spending, doing work, especially now in a virtual world, social, texting, fitness apps, I'm trying to teach myself Italian, so language apps. Like my number is a good 3 or 4 hours higher than that. And I think if you thought about your own behavior, most of you in the room, your number's probably a little bit higher than the average as well, right? And so we're spending an enormous amount of time using technology. But at the same time, more and more research is coming out around some of the negative effects of technology, right? There's a lot of emerging studies coming out about some of the mental health implications, feelings of isolation, particularly with social media. And so there's some friction happening there, right, in terms of our usage and then what it's doing to us as humans. And it's not going away, right? So there's a lot of thinking out there that's saying that the rate of technological change doubles every 18 months. And there's new studies coming out that's saying it's actually being condensed to 12 months. So we're in a period of unrelenting technological change, right? It's just coming at us fast and furious and it's not gonna stop. Our adoption and usage is at an all-time high, but we also are a lot more aware around what it does to us as humans and some of those negative implications, right? So what are we gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it, right? And like going back to what Brian was saying, like what's actually within our control and what can we actually influence? So I think what everyone in the room can likely do is just be a bit more mindful around the choices that we're making, right? And make better choices. We're at such a cool period in time right now where basically the entire world is going through the same experiment at the same time, right? We're all trying to figure out hybrid working at the same time. There's no real best practices out there. There's no playbook. There's no gold standard. We're all kind of figuring it out, trying to test and learn and optimize at the same time. So what I think is really cool and exciting about that is we all have an opportunity to shape it and influence it and make it the best it could possibly be. But it also means, I think, that we all have a responsibility to think critically about that and make sure that we're being really mindful with some of the choices that we're making. So I'll give you a few practical examples just so you can get a better sense of what I'm talking about. So kind of picking up on what Brian was putting down around HR, there's a lot of really great emerging HR tech to support the HR function in organizations, and particularly for hiring managers and recruiters to make their lives easier. So if you're in that type of position, right, you could look at tools, such as predictive AI or resume anonymizers. So predictive AI is known to have biases, right? Like for one, it's based typically on historical data, which is biased because we haven't always been fair in terms of recruiting diverse people in the past. And as well, it's developed by humans who have inherent biases. And so unless we're doing something to interrupt those biases, then if we're using predictive AI, we're continuing to hire people in an unfair manner. An alternative, if you want to make your life a bit easier as a hiring manager, could be to look at resume anonymizers. And if you're not familiar with these, what they do is they basically strip out identifying characteristics from resumes. So things like name, location, gender, etc. So that the hiring manager, the recruiter, can then review a resume and have their own bias interrupted, which hopefully, ideally, leads to a more fair, equitable hiring process. Another example, and this is, I think, particularly pertinent given, virtual and hybrid environments, is Bossware versus employee sentiment monitoring or cultural monitoring. And Brian touched on this as well in terms of listening to employees, right, and the importance of that. So you're probably familiar with Bossware. I mean, there's a huge spike in usage because of the pandemic and virtual work environments. Basically, what it does is it monitors employee behavior. So anything from looking at websites that you're visiting to monitoring your keystrokes or even taking screenshots, right? And so, like in my perspective, that feels a little invasive, a little icky, and likely erodes trust with employees. Right? A more positive way to monitor employees would be things like surveys, chatbots. These are two tools that we use with some success at KPMG. You can also do opt-in monitoring. And what you can do with those more positive monitoring tools is get a better sense of what employees are thinking and feeling, and create, to Brian's point, that kind of sense of comfort and safeness, and ultimately contribute to a more positive working environment and help develop a more positive culture. So those are just two examples. There's obviously a ton of other examples out there, but I think the main point is that we really are at a really interesting, pivotal point in time. And we all have, I think, some pretty important choices to make. So if you're in an influencer role in your organization, a decision-making role, if you're an investor or a developer, or even when it comes to your own personal consumption habits, I'd really encourage all of you to think critically about some of those choices that we're making, right? Do they ultimately help humanity? Do they unintentionally exclude certain groups? Right? Do they ultimately make us better humans? Do they make you happier? Right? If I think of it to my own personal behavior, like sometimes I'll scroll on social and I'll get really agitated and angry about stuff. I'm like, why? Like, why am I doing this to myself? I don't have to be exposing myself to these things. So it's just kind of getting into the habit of making those choices and being a bit more mindful about some of those choices that we're making. Because I think ultimately, at the end of the day, technology should be helping us as humans, right? It should be helping humanity. It should be making better human experiences, not detracting from it or competing with it. So that's all for me for today, but would love to keep the conversation going. If anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can connect with me up there or hit me up this evening and would love to chat.
Yes, with the Rogers outage, did you guys, you were thinking,
Correct.
so did you guys measure or looking at how that affected people in their behaviors? As you say, people's behaviors can be very erratic. Did it spike because they didn't have access to,
Yeah.
social?
So I think you're right, like your hypothesis I think is probably right. And not to brag, we get Fridays off in the summer. And so there was, I kind of joke going around that this was on purpose so that people would actually shut down and not work. But I think you're right, I think if it happened during a typical workday for us, yeah, I think, there would be anxiety, particularly for people who are client facing, right? In terms of how do I connect with my clients? How do I make it work? Where's the local Starbucks so I can get on their network there, right? So I think we probably would have seen some of that behavior. I think your line of thinking is correct, but we were all enjoying the day off.
It should happen more often.
Any other questions? Okay, make sure you connect with Christine afterwards, okay? Thank you very much, Christine. Now, we started the tradition at LinkedIn local meetups in Toronto of having open mic session. And the whole idea was to have people just come up and share whatever they want. So the open mic session actually become a favorite. And whenever we have feedback, people say, I like the open mic session. And so what we want to do is we invite you to come up. Now, obviously, we can't hear from all of you, but we can hear from first come, first serve, whoever wants to. Please don't use it as a 5-minute tirade into the Rogers outage or how your mama didn't ever hug you enough. It's not that. But I think it's a good time you can mention where you've been during the pandemic, or maybe it's gratitude about being back. Everyone gets 2 minutes. So 2 minutes, you can share a tip. 2 minutes, you can ask for help on something. Right? Take 2 minutes, you quickly share something that maybe you're grateful for today, or maybe something you learned through the pandemic. But 2 minutes, and you want to pitch your business, and I don't mind you pitching your business brand, absolutely. Like in LinkedIn, we pitch our businesses, right? The LinkedIn local meetups, yeah, you do that. But 2 minutes, okay? Because I know, you'll see me back going, we will turn off your mic, and Switch is the muscle here, so he's going to pick you up and take you out of here. I'm not muscle, I'm a pacifist. I'm a teddy bear, are you kidding me? So if anybody would like to come up and share a thought or a tip or anything, please do, go ahead, come on up.
Okay, so I'm going first. I'll set the bar really low, so hopefully it will be good. So I'll start with a quick intro, give a tip, and then share something I'm grateful about. So I'm Vipul Jain. I provide tax and accounting solutions to businesses. So Liv, you should sponsor me. Yeah. I've been doing this since I was 18, accounting and tax, because let's be honest, what's sexier than accounting? Honestly. Okay, so going on to my tip. So my tip, hire an accountant, hire me. How do you make anything less scary or less intimidating? That is what I do. So what do I do? This is something I do every morning. For 3 minutes, I start my day with an ice cold shower. Hear me out. I'm not a doctor, just disclaimer, legal purposes, my lawyer told me. So, if I have anything scary to do, and it goes really bad, like this talk, it's not as bad as my shower. Like 2 weeks ago, I was playing soccer, cut my leg, couldn't walk properly, and I was really upset. It wasn't as bad as my shower. So, if you start your day like that, it's only gonna get better. That's my advice. Last thing, what I'm really grateful for is for the people who are much smarter and braver than me. The people during the pandemic, people fighting wars, people fighting the virus, people making the vaccine, I'm not as smart, I'm not as brave as them, but they make this and my life possible. So I'm truly grateful for that.
All right, all you gotta do is step up and go ahead anytime. So if anybody else wants to go, just put their hand up and sure.
Hi everyone, my name, closer, okay, closer. Okay. My name is Mary Wildman, and this is my first LinkedIn networking event that I'm attending tonight. It's been amazing. It's been great. You guys seem so lovely, and I've enjoyed meeting you guys and connecting, and I'm basically just up here. I'm up here because I'm going through a career transition right now, so I am open looking for work. So if anyone knows of any positions that are opening, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mary Wildman. Some of the positions I've had over the past few years, I've been employed with TD Bank in the corporate office. I've also worked for Metropolitan University, and I've worked for Mars Discovery here in Toronto. And I'm also a motivational speaker, and I advocate for Indigenous people. I'm Indigenous myself, so I'm very proud to be standing here and, just kind of paving the way for more Indigenous people to kind of like step out and use their voice and ask for help. So, thank you.
Yeah, if people want to come up, you can even just stand here and wait too. So, yeah, you just grab us here. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, my name is Matthew, and I'm 18. I just graduated from high school. So I would just want to come up and share a story of one of my buddies. It really inspired me. So in my high school, I went to Upper Canada College, and we have an annual tradition at UCC where we host the World Affair Conference. This is basically, we talk about the most pressing issue that's happening around the world with invite speakers. Back in 2015, in the World Affair Conference, this guy called Connor Healy was able to secure Edward Snowden to speak at the conference. And that's a huge deal. So I got really, really intrigued, like just a high school student getting Edward Snowden, who's wanted by the NSA, and like just how's that possible? So I got his number and then hopped on a phone call. I was expecting some transformational story and like how he was able to like pull a bunch of strings and all that stuff. But it's nothing like that. It's really simple. So the story goes, in his grade 12 year at my high school, UCC, there was a roundtable discussion. And as a high school student, attending these roundtable discussions was not really the go-to thing during recess. People would much rather just hang out in the locker room and all that stuff. And he was about to do the same. He was about to hang out with his friend and take a nap before his next class. But he's like, I don't feel like sleeping today. I feel like showing up today. So what he did simply was just to show up to that event. And then he got connected with Janelle Jaffer, who works at ACLU, and then the rest is history. So I guess the moral of the story is, when you show up more in life, good things will come your way. And I truly believe that, although people say, oh, luck is just luck, it's something from, up there, but I really think that you can engineer your luck and serendipity by just showing up more. So that's my story. Thank you very much.
Some shorties here, so some tough acts to follow. So my name is Kadeen Cooper. I've met a couple of you before, and it's so nice to be back in person. I have to tell you, like Bobby, I've met virtually. Lee, I've met virtually. Bill, we met in person like a while ago. We're actually going to be joining Bill at his event next week, so you all need to come and tap in there. But what brought me up here was Mary, who said that she's currently in career transition. And I'm someone who's an HR professional who specialized in talent acquisition space for 16 years, both corporate and agency, before quitting my job in 2019 to start my own practice. So now I operate in my own practice as a career transition coach. I'm also a speaker, a facilitator, and a mentor. And I love to help professionals basically to get the clarity that they need to find out what their passion is, right? And either turn that purpose or their passion into purpose and leading them to new opportunities, or just to kind of get themselves grounded with where they want to go. Because anything is possible. I think if this time has taught us nothing else, it's that whatever you want to do, that you can do it. With the right tools, guidance, and support, you can do anything. So my name is Christina Cooper. Love to connect. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also part of Me's Women in Biz Network and our Beehive. But yeah, you guys are all amazing people. I just want you to know that whatever you want to do, that you can do it with the right resources and support. And that's it.
This is your chance. Anybody can go up. All right, there we go. Yeah, just maybe inside there.
Hello. Hi, I'm David. I love the grades and stuff, but I find this more interesting. I've been to many events by Bobby, and he's just a wonderful human being, and I appreciate everything he does, and Swish, knocking it out of the park. I talk to myself in a 3x3 foot padded cell every day. No, I'm not crazy. I'm a professional voice actor, and I help companies tell their story in an authentic way so they can connect with their audiences. I have nothing else to pitch. No story. So I'm going to say thank you. You can find me anytime at davidgilbertvoiceover.com, and I'm going to go take my seat. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Edmondson. Bobby, I think you said a great point there of what would you tell your 14-year-old self something when you were that age? And I had a boss tell me about 6 years ago, Mike, you're really good at this job, but you know what, I think you're destined for bigger things. And I've always thought about that, and I would have told myself that about 10 years ago. I went to different positions within the bank. I said, you know what, Mike, why don't you do something that you like to do? And you know what, it's nice, it adds value to your life, doing things that help other people. But at the end of the day, guys, do what you want to do. And I think that's really helped me over the last few months. I went to something that is new to me, and I thought, you know what, this is fantastic. I've been loving it so far. After 10 years of banking, I joined Canada Life, which is down the street, which is made it really easy for coming to this event. But yeah, guys, do what you want in life, and I don't think it's too late to ever know that. So just go from there. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Andrina and then Lee. And if anybody else wants after that, just put your hand up now to the last person.
Just the perfect height. It was like meant for me. My name is Andrina. I don't know, there's a million things that I can talk about. But there's one thing that comes surfacing right now, and I think we've all kind of touched upon, it's mindset, it's kind of like the going through the hard times and doing it by yourself. And I think the pandemic has literally shit on all of us, and it's put us all in the same sort of spot. But the good thing about that is that we've learned to open up about stuff, and that, you know, the collateral beauty of that is that we're all really kind of the same. And for the last 2 years, I've been talking to a lot of founders and investors about what they're going through, and then we launched with an event, June 17th, 18th, last month. I died for a week after because it was burning out. But I just wanted to play a little game with you. If you have ever done this in your life, just say I. There's something that I asked Dimitri Buterin, which is the grandfather of Ethereum, because he's very open about this stuff. So I hope that you guys are going to follow in his footsteps and really open up. So if you've ever done this in your life, say I. Saved or fixed others. Aye. Okay. People pleasing? Aye. Feel like you're not enough? Aye. Yeah. Went against your gut? Aye. Yep. Consciously said something hurtful? Aye. Yep. Lied to get your way? Aye. Ran for responsibilities? Aye. Yep. Said I'm okay when you were deeply hurting? Aye. Thought about committing suicide? Aye. Ooh, okay. Fun fact, both Dimitri and Mahendra have said aye to that comment. And I think a lot of people were surprised because we look at super famous people and we're like, oh, they have no problem, they got money. But life's not about money. And I don't want to go more into that, but that was a very interesting thing. And last one, hated yourself. Aye. So I think we're all closer because we're talking about deep, meaningful connection, but it's really hard to open up. And because it puts us in a place of vulnerability. And I think that the more we wear our cloak of vulnerability, the more Harry Potter we turn. Okay, that's it.
Next up is Lee and then Andrew to finish up.
That was amazing. I really loved that youth exercise. So my name is Lee Mitchell, and I'm the founder of Women in Biz Network and Be Happy HR. And my tip is we can do hard things. So obviously we've all come through a really difficult and challenging time. Some of us have maybe lost job opportunities. Some of us have maybe lost loved ones. Some of us have maybe being challenged with relationship difficulties. But whatever it is that you're going through, know that you have this, own it. You can make things happen for yourself. You just have to believe. And yes, you can do hard things. I believe in you. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? So my name is Andrew Jenkins. I have a company called Volterra, specializing in social media, but that's not why I'm standing up here. If I was to give you one tip, it's to be find the courage to be able to simply ask. And what I mean by that is, in 2007, I had been packaged out from Bell Canada, and I was doing research on LinkedIn, and I found someone in the UK that worked for an organization. The work that they were doing struck me as very interesting. So I sent them a message through LinkedIn cold. I just said, if you have time and would be open to it, I'd love to have a chat with you by phone to learn more about the work that you do and the organization that you do it for. He graciously accepted. And some weeks later, we spoke by phone, and then over the weeks that followed and the months that followed, I continued to nurture and keep in touch. Some months later, I was in the UK, which is where he was living and the company that he was working for resided. We met in person, and then again continued to nurture the relationship in the months that followed. And then again, out of the blue, I just reached out and said, his name is Roland. And I said, Roland, would you know of any organization in the UK that would be interested in outsourcing professional services to Canada, given the exchange rate? And he said, well, coincidentally, we have a project here, and we have you in mind for it. And so I was commissioned by the National Endowment for Science, Technology and the Arts, or NESTA, in the UK to do research in 2008 on all the predominant social media networks at that time. And it's that connection and that project that has led to the company I now run 14 years later. And have been running for 14 years. And I wanted, that thread is continuing with another ask, and it involves the UK as well. Because of my work with social media, I made a connection. I was in the UK again 2.5 years ago. I was meeting with a connection for the first time, now in person, again, pre-pandemic, but we've only been connected through social before this. And it was someone who had written a book, and I said, I have an idea for a book, and I was bouncing it off of him. And he introduced me to his publisher. I pitched the publisher on my book, and my book just came out in March. So, I'm not saying any of this to brag, I'm saying there's just for someone encouraged to just reach out and ask, the worst they can say is no.
Thank you so much for that. All right, some great stories. And I love the open mics because we get to hear some really amazing stories. So as we close off, I just have a couple of last things I want to share with folks. First, I want to thank the teams of Xero, as well as Bill and Swish and all the people from DYPB for helping us organize this event and bring us back again. I think I really appreciate that. You guys are amazing. I've missed you during the pandemic. I can't even describe how much, but I have a lot. And so thank you for that. Also, again, a little bit about DYPB. So, we started doing lots of LinkedIn local meetups, we do workshops, panel events, mini conferences, large scale conferences. But now our main goal is really to help people with personal branding. Because what we found over the years is that personal branding gives individuals three things. Number one, it gives you focus, clarity, direction, purpose of what you're trying to do with your life. Number two, it gives you more alignment, so more meaningfulness, values alignment, more fulfillment. And if you have great focus and great alignment, you get great impact. Impact comes in results and successes, achievements, and your story and legacy. And so everybody wants to do this. And most people are struggling in their job or in their business to find this clarity. So if you dive into that personal brand, you can get there. And that's kind of where we work with folks to design first, discover first, then design, and deliver that brand out there. And that's kind of the model we create where most people are in the design phase. We're constantly strategizing and putting together tactics and planning and all that kind of stuff. And we do that, and when we deliver, it doesn't go the way we want, whether it's a job search or a digital marketing platform or a business lead generation platform. It's because we didn't do the deep dive work to discover who we are. We need to take the deep dive work, which is 20 hours plus, okay? It's work, but that 20 hours plus is going to give you more focus, more clarity, more direction, more alignment, which makes the design much easier and much more focused on when you finally do deliver, it's going to be far more impactful. And then when you want to build that thought leadership brand and become someone who's be sought out for books, for speaking gigs, media opportunities, new jobs, new promotions, new business leads, it's because you've been working on stuff like storytelling, content creation, public speaking, mindset, confidence, and all those types of things. So that's why we do what we do. And I want to thank our sponsors, Xero, for the food and for hosting this amazing space. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in good hands. Thank you, sir, for bringing all the great stuff too. Thanks so much for that. Thank you, DYPB, our partners, HR Gazette, with Bill, College Brand Club, Ray Allen, Women in Biz Network, Be Happy HR Company. And I just want to share what I'm up to. So here's what I'm up to, because I'll tell you a little story. I don't talk this much, when the pandemic hit, the kids were home, and at the time they were 9 and 11. And we were scrambling to deal with them. What do we do with them? They're home and we can't work. My wife and I, it was really tough. And a month went by, and it was just so hard as a parent. And they were upset, and they were bored, and they were on their laptops, and school was just really boring for them online. And then a month later, I realized, holy shit, all of my speaking gigs from March through November are gone. And I talk about it on the 5-time TEDx speaker, Inc. Magazine, top English speaker. I've spoken around the world, 1,000 keynotes over four continents. But my entire life fell apart. And what did I do for those 7-8 months of making zero money? I booked calls. I booked Zoom calls. I started booking calls. I should have bought Zoom stock, but I booked Zoom calls, and I started to talk to people and find out what they were doing and what's going on. And it was really powerful because it was a very intimate experience because we're in each other's basements and kitchens and whatnot. And I had 400 Zoom calls in 2020. I was making money, so I might as well some calls available. And I just talked to a lot of people to figure it out. Now, what's also surprising is that people, and you would think that was the hardest time in my life. It wasn't. The hardest time in my life was next year. It was with the kids. The following year, one of the kids in Niall's class got COVID, so he was isolated for 2 weeks, which meant Raya had to isolate too. And then they went back for 2 days, and someone in Raya's class got COVID, and she came back and isolated. So from March, and then they closed down. So from March to June, end of June, the kids were home for 4 months. And I'm trying to rebuild my businesses. It was so difficult. The hardest part of my life was getting the kids to not be tech addicted because we tracked them. We tracked them. They were doing 45 and 60 hours a week on their laptops. And most of it was YouTube and Minecraft because we couldn't get them to do school. We couldn't get them to do anything else. And it got stressful, and we tried to get them off for lunch breaks. They wouldn't take lunch breaks. They'd just stay on the computer. One day we decided, and my wife and I, let's just go out and let them handle themselves. At this point, they're 10 and 12 now. We went out for dinner. We went out, walked around, grabbed dinner, came back, had dinner, then started watching TV, you know, on Netflix. Everyone watched Netflix. And then at 9:30 p.m., we went to the bed where the kids were. I said, kids, it's bedtime. And they're like, what? What about dinner? What? Like they stayed on their laptops all the way till 9:30 p.m. And we're making the point, like, this is how bad it is. You have to regulate yourself. You have to like understand the balance. And the hardest day for me was really, the hardest part of the pandemic for me was, it was so stressful with my daughter, who, you know, was very social like her daddy. She's a social butterfly. That, you know, she got really angry with me. I got upset with her, and then she wrote in her diary that she hated her daddy. And when I found out about that, not that I was supposed to find out, but I did find out from the mom. I was heartbroken because I just felt like I failed as a father. And I've always prided myself on being an amazing dad. World-class parent, I always called myself. World-class husband, world-class speaker, world-class parent. But in the last 2 years, I felt like a really crappy parent. And so that to me is the hardest part of COVID. I'm glad we're back though. I'm glad we're seeing each other. I'm glad I'm going camping with my kids tomorrow and I'm going to college next week. It's going to be amazing. So, you know, what I'm out to now is I transitioned to doing more online programs. So I'm doing a video workshop on July 23rd on the Thought Leaders Running Club, which is the third company I started. I ran a TEDx speaker program that guaranteed people a TEDx talk and 3 speaking gigs this year. So I ran that program. And I'm doing LinkedIn audio events on called LinkedIn Mastery every Tuesdays on LinkedIn. And you want to check those out, they're free, no problem. And I'm starting a new Clubhouse series with Carlos, who's actually my coach, on Iconic CEO. And we're doing Clubhouse every Tuesday at 12 p.m. So those are the kind of things that I'm doing right now. Again, we're celebrating the joy of being in networking events, more hybrid workplaces. This is Charles LinkedIn local meetup. I want to thank you for being, thank everyone. Enjoy the rest of the food, and there's lots of drinks left. And right now we're just networking. So we're just networking, and then we're ending at 8:30. There's an after party at a bar. I forget what it's called. Bill, do you know what it's called? The what? The Duke of Cornwall. Right, okay, great. The Duke of Cornwall, if you want to join us afterwards for a drink or more food, you totally can. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Good night.
We enjoyed. See you later.